Oh, it is set up as a meeting. Oh, this is great. I love this. Look at this fabulous people. There's Roy. Roy, let me ask you this, dude. Is that a real background, or is that like actually your library, or is that
that's
a
actually my
virtual
library.
background?
It's one side of the wall or one side of the library. That's all my history books. Another side, which is not shown, are literature. Then I have another room that's filled with books.
So that's not a virtual background right behind you?
It is a virtual background, and the wall is right over there, but I created it. I don't know, 5,000.
Oh my God. And you moved them all from the Bay Area?
I moved them all down. Well, some of them are my mom's, my parents. I inherited all her hardback bound literature books.
Rabbi, can you see me? Rabbi,
Who's speaking?
it's Miriam Alperin.
Oh, Miriam. No, I don't see you.
Why is that? Why can't I get my
You
picture
may
on?
be on stop video.
It
so.
says Marvin Alperin, but my
Yeah.
name is Miriam, and I can't seem to get on.
The video. Well, I can hear you.
Yeah.
Was it a mess?
Look on your lower left
Oh,
side.
there you
on the
are.
screen.
There you
Now I
are.
see
Got the video
Now
on.
I
Thank
see
you. Thank you. I can see.
There we go.
Everyone.
Now you got
Nice
on.
to see
Check
all
it
these
out.
familiar
So-
faces.
Rabbi, what parsha are we doing today?
Or are we?
We are. Oh,
I got
we
my
are.
book.
It's called Naso. Naso.
Okay.
Naso what? Naso what?
I never heard
Merle.
that.
Hi, Merle.
I'm getting my chumash.
Okay. I also have the page. If
Got
you
it.
have your Chumash is great. I also made a little page of the piece that we're going to read from, but that's cool too. And then maybe somebody can read a little bit more if we want to just go just beyond a couple of those pieces. Ken, do you want to turn on your video? You're also muted. I'm going to ask you to unmute, ask to start video if you want. Jay, what's up, dude? You got to start. I don't even hear you. I want you to unmute or ask your video if you want. There he is. Jay.
I'm doing a little work in the background. I don't want to look unfocused on video.
No, dude. I don't mind if you look unfocused. I like to see you. You know that. But, your choice.
All right. Just for you.
There he is. Good.
Oh, you're so handsome, Jay.
Oh.
Thank you very much.
Yay, I love it. Jay, when are you leaving?
June 30th, but my last day at work is going to be the 12th, next Friday.
Last day of work is the 12th night, and then he's moving back to Israel on June 30th.
Correct.
Mazal
Pretty
tov.
exciting. That's
Mazal tov.
wonderful.
Harbe hatzlacha.
Toda rabah.
Look at this. Are we going to do this whole thing in Hebrew today? What are we doing?
Yalla.
Bye.
You're like, I think this is cutting out. I can't hear you. All right. So why don't we begin? Why don't we begin with a little blessing? The blessing for the study of Torah. Do we remember that one? It begins. Oh, you got all right. Yeah, all right. You got it. You're like, Rabbi, we got this. All right. So why don't we start with a little.
Baruch.
Here we go. Talia's coming in. Baruch atah Adonai.
Adonai Eloheinu
Eloheinu melech haolam asher kishanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu la'asok b'divrei Torah.
Divrei Torah.
That's right. La'asok b'divrei Torah. Get busy with Torah. Let me ask you this question. What does that mean to get busy with Torah? What does that mean to get busy with Torah? And if you have an idea, I'm going to ask you to raise your hand, and then I will. You know what? They be happy. Oh, Hannah's in here too. This is awesome. Why don't we all start with ourselves muted. And then if you have something to say, raise your hand and I will call on you. I will unmute you. All right, that's just helpful for the way this thing flows. All right, here we go with the question. We're gonna start right even with those blessing. What does it mean to get busy with Torah? Why do you think? Okay, we'll start with that. All right, Merle, ask to unmute. Unmute yourself, Merle.
To study?
Well, okay. To get busy, study. It could also be. It does. You know, the blessing doesn't say lomed or lilamed. Lomed to study or to learn Torah. It says to get busy. So let's say maybe to study is part of it.
To do what Torah tells us to do.
Oh. Do what Torah tells us to do. So there's a little bit more than just study.
Guides us to do. Teaches us to do.
Right? Nice. Guides us. This is interesting. This is really good. So does anybody know what the Hebrew is for Jewish law? What is the Hebrew for Jewish law? Go, Sue, unmute yourself.
Halakha.
Beautiful. Halakha. Halakha. Now, do you know what, let's say if we can get a translation of the word halakha. Do we know what the translation for halakha is? And it's not law. It's not. All right, what you got? Yes. Unmute yourself, Ms. Alpern. Unmute yourself. You're still muted, honey. Sorry. Gotta unmute yourself. Yeah, there you go.
Okay. I believe, first of all, it says Marvin, but I'm really not. I'm Miriam. I believe it comes from the word haloch, to walk.
Close. Yes.
Holech.
Holech. Yes. Yes.
Walks. One walks.
Beautiful. It's like the path, right? Holech, halacha, the going, the walk. It's not just the sitting and studying and learning, but the halacha is about movement. So the getting busy is also about movement, right? To be busy is to be doing, to be focused, to be on this path of walking. What we learn from the Torah. Fabulous. All right. This is a really great beginning. So then when we talk about this idea of the blessing, it's not just, okay, now we're going to have a little lunch and learn and study. No, right? We're starting to get busy, and it has to do with the mind and our body and the movement all within. Uh-oh. Look who's joining us. Jody is joining us. Jody, there she is. Hi, Jody. Good to see you.
Rabbi Eshel.
How's it going? You know, just to catch you up real quick, we just started talking about, we just did the blessing for the study of Torah, but then we did it like, well, what does that mean to get busy with Torah?
Oh, nice.
So we said getting busy is about action, right? It's movement, it's doing, it's thinking and doing and learning. And we looked at the word halakha, coming from the word holech that Miriam translated so beautifully, as walking and movement. Right? It's not just about sitting around talking about these big ideas, but it's about doing something with them. All right, you're all caught up.
Thank you. I'm going to follow while you. I'm not putting my camera on because I'm baking your wife's challah recipe while I learn.
Oh, I love it. I love it. But I made Jay feel bad about not having his video on, but he turned it on. But it's all right. You know, he's not baking. You're baking. I get that. But anyway, let's keep going. Look at all these fabulous people here. I love it. I love it. I love it. So we said that we're in Parshat Naso. There's some amazing things going on in here. There's some really beautiful and interesting things going on in here. I'm going to share. I'm going to share my screen with you because I want you to see this first part. Okay, the beginning of Naso. Do you guys see that? Does everyone see this, friends, on your screen?
Yes.
If you do, give me a thumbs up or yes. Good. Okay, Parshat Naso. This begins. It's Numbers 6, Bamidbar. You know, in the wilderness. 6. Here are the first lines. Before we do this, does anybody remember what's going on in the Torah right now? What did we talk about last week? Does anybody remember? What did we talk about last week? Go, Sue.
It was
Unmute yourself.
adultery, wasn't it?
Well, that was kind of the same. That's
Notice
also in
where my
this
mind
too.
is.
But we're in the middle of the taking of the census.
Oh,
Do you remember
okay.
this? All right. Does that sound familiar? We're taking a census. There's a few censi. What's the plural of census?
Census.
Census.
Sensei?
Sensi, senses,
Census.
census. So there's multiple census being taken in the thing. And this one is specifically about looking at getting people together for battle and also for responsibilities and jobs. That's all I'm going to say because I don't want to give out anymore. Here we go. I'm going to read something, and here's what I want you to think about. I don't want you to look about it. I don't want you to look about, we're here with numbers 421. Don't look at number 6 yet, because that comes a bit later. 421. I want you to think about not the specifics of what I'm reading, but what's the big idea? What is the point? Okay, not the specifics, but what's the big idea? What's the point? All right, here we go. The Lord spoke to Moses, take a census of the Gershonites, also by their ancestral house and by their clans. Record them from the age of 30 years up to the age of 50, all who are subject to service in the performance of tasks for the tent of meeting. These are the duties of the Gershonite clans as to labor and, what's this word? Porterage, I guess. And they shall carry the cloths of the tabernacle, the tent of meeting with its covering, the covering of dolphin skin that is on top of it, and the screen for the entrance of the tent of meeting, the hangings of the enclosure, the screen at the entrance of the gate of the enclosure that surrounds the tabernacle, the cords thereof, and the altar and their service equipment, and all of the accessories, and they shall perform the service. All the duties of the Gershonites, all their porterage and all their service shall be performed on orders from Aaron and his sons. You shall make them responsible for attending to all of their porterage. Those are the duties of the Gershonite clan of the tent of meeting. They shall attend to them under the direction of Itamar, son of Aaron, the priest. Now, right before this, right after this, they're also talking about these are the duties of the Levites. These are the duties of the Merarites. These are the duties of all these different ites, right? All these different families. Now, without thinking about the specifics, what is the purpose here? What is the big idea? Ukasa, go.
I think I once did a drosh on census, and I think, first of all, it's only certain people are counted. And here, that they have divided what each group can do. It's sort of like, if you think of it in modern terms, okay, you can be a tailor if you're part of this tribe, or you can be a salesman, or you can do it. They've really kind of prescribed what people can do, and you're really kind of limited by what they tell you can do.
Ah, that's interesting. You're kind of limited. Great. What else? That's so interesting. It's not where I was going with it, but I like this. This is fascinating. What else? What is the big idea here? What do we think the big idea? Merle, you got an idea? Was that a hand?
Yeah.
Go.
Oh, wait, I have to unmute. Okay.
No, you're muted. You're unmuted.
Okay. I'm thinking that they gave each tribe or group a specific duty so that everyone in the community had a job.
Okay. So this is a different way of looking at it. Rather than I am limiting you, I'm giving you, this is your job. We all have responsibilities here, but this is your job.
Right.
Fascinating. Oh, Jeff's in the house. Jeff, good to see you. Welcome. So everybody has a job. All right. Good. Fantastic. I want to share a little story with you. Okay, I want to share a little story with you. There you go. A new young rabbi arrives in an Eastern European town. During his first day, one of the town leaders gave the young rabbi a tour of his new village. Eventually, they came to the Jewish cemetery where, as was the custom, all of his rabbinic predecessors were buried in a common section. As they passed the gravestones, something became frighteningly clear: the ages on the stones. The life of one rabbi was 34 years, another 28, and yet another was a mere 23 years. There was not one person who survived past 40. If somebody's got the TV on, maybe we can mute yourself, maybe. Thank you. As the shocking realization descended upon him, the new rabbi started sweating. He began to believe that the community was so difficult, it was killing off its rabbis. His guide, sensing the young rabbi's growing panic, said, "Let me explain, and then you can decide if you still want to leave. These dates are not the number of years of these people's lives. Get ready for this. They are the number of years that they truly lived their lives. You see, we have a custom in our community that each person keeps a notebook, and at the end of the day, they write down how much of their time was spent serving God, not just through prayer or study, but the number of hours spent living a life of gratitude and not regret, the number of hours living closest to their highest self, living according to the important and not trivial things. At the end of a person's life, we add all of the hours into the notebook, and that is the number we put on their headstone. He lived to be 94, not the 38 years engraved there." And pointing to another stone, he said, "And this rabbi was on earth for 83 years, not 34. What do you think this story is trying to teach? Merle, you got an idea? Oh, Jeff's got an idea. Go, Jeff.
Well, I think the importance of it is that given the task of counting the joy in your life should not be just a religious and rabbinic issue, that this is how you teach everyone how to value the things that are truly important in their life and keep that focus on being and acting in an appropriate righteous pattern.
Okay, so you just extended it a little bit. I like that. Okay, let's jump off of that last point that you said. Not just about the joy, but in acting in righteous way. What does that mean to act in a righteous way? If that what we're saying is truly living, what does it mean to act in a righteous way? Go.
The simplest explanation for me has always been to create and live the acts of loving kindness necessary with those around you, in your community, everywhere.
Say it again. One more time, Jeff. Say it again. Say it again. I don't want us to miss that. Say it again.
That it represents the best element of living a life of loving kindness and showing that in your behavior. It doesn't have to be considered religious. It doesn't have to represent a rite. That this is a behavior that could apply equally to every other religion and every other person on the earth in principle. That the most important element in remaining a stable society is to create the village of loving kindness.
Beautiful. Okay. This is great. Here's the next question. So this Torah portion is always read like on the Shabbat around right after Shavuot, right? The season of receiving the Torah. If we said, all right, every action counts, every moment counts, and then in connection with the census, every person counts, meaning everybody has a job to do, everybody has a responsibility to do. In the Torah, in receiving the Torah, let me ask you this question. What happens if one letter is missing?
It's not kosher.
It's not a proper Torah. One letter is missing. One simple little letter is missing. The whole Torah gotta start. It's gotta start again. It's not a good Torah. It's not a kosher Torah. Nope. Doesn't make it a Torah because that one letter is missing. Each letter has a job to play. Okay, now let's talk about that in terms of us as a people, right? If we just said, like in the census and with the reading of the Gershonites, that everybody has a job, everybody has a role, and without that, if somebody in that clan doesn't perform their role, what happens? The whole thing falls apart, right? The whole thing falls apart. One person doesn't play their role. The Torah, one letter gone, the whole thing falls apart. If we look at that as a Jewish community or the greater Los Angeles community, one person doesn't play their part, it's not as strong as it could be, right? The thing could fall apart. If you don't play your part, living as Jeff was saying, right, we're guided by these concepts of kindness, loving kindness, the thing starts to fall apart. The thing starts to fall apart. All right, we're gonna jump ahead for a second. Well, one more thing that I find actually very interesting about this. What does that say about the role of each individual? That each individual is just as important as the next, right? Who could tell me what a minyan is? Who could tell me what a minyan is?
10 people
Okay, 10 people for what?
for prayer.
Okay, 10
Or-
people for prayer. Even there's
or-
certain to read the Torah, to say
Right.
certain prayers, right? To say any of these things, 10 people.
The
9.
essence,
Say that, Jeff, go.
I was going to say 10 people represents the essence of Jewish community.
Okay, fabulous. So check this out.
If
9 of the holiest, most pious rabbis are in a room. Does that make a minyan?
no,
No. Walks in one 13-year-old, just had bar bat mitzvah, walks in the room, 13-year-old, teenager walks in the room. Does it make a minyan?
yes,
Yes. 9 of the holiest, most religious, righteous rabbi. No, it takes even that 13-year-old bar mitzvah to really make up the minyan, the essence of what the community is. Without it, you can't do all sorts of other things. So it's all of us. All right. Now this is interesting. We're gonna jump ahead because this portion is chock full of all sorts of wonderful things. So now we've established this idea about everybody has a job, everybody has a role. If you're not living up to your fullest potential within your role, then that affects the entire community, right? That affects the entire community, and the entire community doesn't live up to its fullest potential. Boom, let's go to this next idea. This is very interesting. I'm going to now share my screen again. There we go. Ha! Here we are. Check it out. We're
Can
gonna
you
move
make
to
it bigger, Rabbi? Can you make it enlarged so we can truly read it?
Oh, you can't see that.
Only because I'm old.
How about now?
Perfect.
Getting better. One more.
One more. How about now?
Oy, Amachaya.
More perfect.
Amachaya.
All right. Check this out. We are about to get into, so this is interesting here. Now we're going to be talking about the Nazarites.
Uh-oh, look out.
Oh, yes. Yes. Okay. The Lord spoke to Moses. Now we're going to talk about big idea here. Again, don't get too focused on the specifics. Let's talk about big idea. The Lord spoke to Moses, saying, "Speak to the Israelites and say to them, if anyone, man or woman, explicitly utters a Nazarite's vow to set himself apart from the Lord, he shall abstain from wine and any other intoxicant. He shall not drink vinegar of wine or any other intoxicant, neither shall he drink anything in which grapes have been steeped, nor eat grapes fresh or dried throughout his term as Nazarite. He may not eat anything that is obtained from the grapevine, even the seed." Okay, let me give you a little background. What does this mean? Nazarite, making a vow, or something called neder, right? A neder is a vow. It is not a promise. It is a vow. What is the difference between a promise and a vow? What is the difference between a promise and a vow? If you have something to say, please raise your hand and we'll see. Yes, Jeff. Yes, what you got? What's the difference between a promise and a vow? Like when people say so in Israel, or something in part of colloquial Hebrew, right? We'll say like I promise to meet you at the restaurant at 6 o'clock. Bli neder, without a vow. I'm not vowing. I'm just, I'm making this promise and I hope I keep it, but bli neder, without a vow. Bli neder. Go, Jeff.
Well, as far as the Nazarite is concerned, and any vow, a vow is limited to 30 days. Either it must be accomplished, positive or negatively, and it has to be associated ultimately with a sacrifice or some form of acknowledgement that this vow has been accomplished.
But what is the vow? What is the difference between a vow and a promise? What is a vow?
A vow holds obviously a greater emphasis because in essence, most of these are related to whether or not you are addressing this to God, more or less, as far as the Nazarite is concerned.
Okay, but what about like a wedding vow or any of those kind of things? Like, what is the? So it's to God. What else is it? We got you in a second, Sue. Jeff's going to finish his thought.
Well, I wish I had a clearer thought on that.
But I like where you're going with the specifics. No, but you said some. You did say some things though. You did say, because it's about, there's action associated with it.
Right.
There's some kind of action associated with making a vow. Okay, right? When we're talking about, and there is a time limit of completing, but maybe not necessarily with the Nazarites yet, but outside of that, not necessarily. But yes, Jeff, there's an action required with making a vow. Go, Sue.
Well, I have a question actually. Are there consequences if you break a vow? Whereas if you break a promise, there aren't the same direct consequences.
Yeah, so that's very interesting. One would assume that based on the, bli neder, without a vow, I'm not making a vow, that there are consequences for not fulfilling these vows. Yeah, I like that. The answer
The-
is yes.
The
Yes.
reason that in rabbinic times vows were canceled as an activity for people to do is because of the gross and abject failure of people to actually satisfy those vows.
Sorry for the
Kol-
whistling.
The Kol Nidre obviously was defined just for those purposes.
That's right. Kol Nidre is about all of the vows. Because we make these vows to ourselves and we
Carelessly.
don't give them the weight. Yes, we don't give them the weight and the time and the effort that they deserve if you are truly making a vow. Right? This is good. This is very good. And this is also very interesting. Here, when we're talking specifically of the Nazarites, what is it saying that they need to abstain from? What does it say they need to abstain from?
That would be the last point that I would make about it, which
Let's
is
hear it.
in essence, they are foregoing God's commandment to enjoy everything of this earth, including wine.
Yes.
That
Yes.
they are abstaining from following the blessings that God has given man to use this earth in all of its joy.
For what purpose, though? Why to do that? So this is almost like if you're saying you're going to abstain from something that is supposed to bring joy, one could extrapolate from that it's almost like a punishment, right? You do not get to enjoy this, right? You do not get to experience this joy because of something maybe that one did or something that maybe one felt or believed or didn't do. There can be no joy unless X, Y, and Z is met. You cannot experience the joy if others are not experiencing joy. I kind of jumped a little bit there. But think about that. You have to refrain from certain aspects of joy. One could say as a punishment until a vow is completed. Okay. Check this out. Jeff, were you with us when we did the blessing? You weren't with us yet when we talked about the Torah saying the blessing for the study of Torah, La'asok b'divrei Torah.
No.
But you've said it before. But what
Many
we
times.
discussed, yes, many times. So here I'm going to make some connections here. Okay, I'm going to make some connections here. The first thing we talked about was this idea of La'asok b'divrei Torah, getting busy with Torah, getting busy with the teachings of Torah, the living of Torah, the halakha, the movement, the walking in the ways of Torah, right? Okay.
The ethical behavior.
Great. The ethical behavior. Behavior. Then we talked about the role that each of us play, that everybody has a job to do, everybody has a role to play, right? And when one doesn't do it, it affects everything else. Then, right, we talked about this idea now of vows that are connected to action, right? We got to live in a certain way. I need to do a certain thing. I need to act in a certain way, right? And if I'm not doing that, there is this idea of, like Sue was asking, is there a punishment? This punishment of having to refrain from something in order to get back to it. Okay, here we go. We're going to now move on to the next part, but it's all connected. We're going to move into the next part of, let's go down here. Oh, this is good. And I think everybody's going to recognize this. You see this in the share. All right. This is also in Naso. I mean, Naso is just chock full of amazing things. Get ready for this. Tell me where you've heard this before. Numbers 6, 22 through 27. The Lord spoke to Moses, speak to Aaron and his sons. Thus shall you bless the people of Israel. right? They're going to bless the people and say to them, the Lord bless you. May the Lord bless you and protect you. May the Lord deal kindly and graciously with you. The Lord bestow his favor upon you and grant you peace. Thus they shall link my name with the people of Israel, and I will bless them. Or maybe in Hebrew, right? Yevarechecha Adonai v'yishmerecha. Ya'er Adonai panav elecha v'yechuneka. Yisa Adonai panav elecha v'yasem lecha shalom. Does that sound familiar to anybody? Does that sound familiar to anybody?
The priestly
What?
blessing.
Oh yeah, the priestly blessing. When do we say this? We've heard it all the time. There it is. I'm gonna bless you. When do we say this? Give me a few times in our tradition. And when do we do this? When do we do this? When do we do this?
At the end of a
Talia's got her hand up. Go, Talia. Unmute yourself.
Oh, this was from before with the vows. It was just
Oh,
yeah, sorry. It was a vow seems to be something that would be with a discipline. So if you take a vow, it involves discipline and changes in your life. Whereas a promise is just a commitment you make that's convenient for your life.
oh. Say that again. Go. Say that again.
So a vow is something that's a discipline. You commit to a discipline.
You commit to a discipline. I'm writing this down. I like this.
That may not be comfortable or convenient, whereas a promise is just a commitment to doing something that, you know, doesn't require change.
Okay. I'm not sure about that second part, but I like it. I like the first part. Okay. Thank you, Talia. Fabulous. See, I didn't see you because, okay, I apologize. Now I'm going to lower the hand there. Boom, lowered your hand. I guess I got to monitor the hands too. Hold on, Merle, I cut you off. Then Miriam will get to you, but I cut Merle off. Go, Merle. Priestly blessing. When have you heard it?
I was just going to say, at the end of a bar bat, you bless the B'nai Mitzvah students in front of the ark. But then also, when I was growing up, and it's not done now, it was at the end of Shabbat services.
At the end of Shabbat services. Okay,
Before
so
you left the sanctuary.
We are offering a blessing to the people. We are offering a blessing to the people. We offer it to bar mitzvah kids. We do it at baby namings. We do it at weddings where we bless the couple and we put them wrap them in the talit, and we offer them the blessing. Do it with the baby also, and you wrap them with the talit, and you do it at the bar mitzvah, right? We offer the blessing. We offer the blessing. We offer this priestly blessing. What, in essence, is the blessing saying? Miriam, what did you want to say before we go on?
Well, Merle said it. When you go to a Shabbat service, you hear it at least once. I think that the rabbi says it either to the whole kahal, the whole kehillah, the whole congregation for some reason, or he takes any simcha that comes along, including the bat and bar mitzvah, to say it to the people involved. And it's just a wonderful prayer because I love to hear the rabbi say it. I can never hear it enough because it's very inclusive. It includes the direct people, but includes everyone. And I always feel included when I hear it.
That's interesting.
I am also blessed along with them.
Okay, so here is it. All right, but now, okay. Now here's something with this that I wrestle with. There's a difference. First, let's try and define this. What does it mean to offer a blessing? What does that mean? What does it mean to offer a blessing? What does that do? When we bless the children in front of the ark, and I say these words to them, what does that mean to offer a blessing? What's the purpose? What am I doing? What's the purpose of it? Now, who's involved? What's the point of it?
To encourage them
To encourage them, what does that mean?
to keep doing what they said they would do, say at their bar bat mitzvah.
Okay, so how does that encourage them to offer them a blessing?
That this blessing was said in front of the Torah,
Uh-huh.
in front of the ark, in front of God.
Okay, good. What else?
God's going to make you accountable.
Ah! That's gonna make you accountable. So okay, so
To
if
yourself.
offering
maybe.
the blessing, what does the okay, here's the part that because this is interesting. Is offering a blessing, is that transformational? Can
To
that be
another-
transformational?
Yes, it can be.
Okay,
Should be.
should be into what? Transform from what to what?
For
To
one
what
thing,
you do.
into a self-awareness, for one thing.
Okay, into a self-awareness. What
And
else?
that's already a big thing because
It's already
many
a big-
people fight that, not
Mm.
look within themselves. That's already a huge step. And then you have someone else conferring, in a sense, upon you, even though they could be a friend who blesses you. It doesn't necessarily have to be someone in a higher status.
No, there's no such thing. That's right.
No.
Everybody can offer a blessing to anybody else. No. Yeah. There's no higher state. No higher status. You're right. Okay, but here's where I'm going with this. Get ready. What is the difference between offering a blessing and being a blessing? What is the difference between offering a blessing and being a blessing? May you be a blessing. What's the difference between offering a blessing and being a blessing? What do you
A
think?
lot.
Action.
No,
Who
I
said that?
don't want to, I
I
said
did.
a lot, but I don't want to talk more. I'd rather hear my friends.
Action.
Action and being included and identified within a righteous group to identify and to create a pattern of behavior within this group.
To identify pattern of behavior within this group. I'm taking notes on this too. I love this. Go, Sue.
Is when you say somebody is a blessing, is it an acknowledgement that they are living a righteous life? In other
That's,
words, that they're a blessing, that they would have to be living a righteous life and following the laws and so forth. And they also become, they are an example to others.
Okay. All right. So it's the way one lives one's life, being an example to others, right? Okay. Either explicitly or implicitly, right? Because I think of my children as blessings to me, and that is, in that sense, they are an inspiration to me to examine myself, right? They being a blessing is in itself them blessing me with that introspection and that Miriam was talking about. Interesting. Roy, were you about to say something? No. No, Roy,
Rabbi,
say something. Yeah,
Can I ask you a question about the benediction?
you just did. That's a question.
Okay, well, thank you.
Oh,
Then
I'm sorry. I can't. Why do I do that? I always do that. That's such a.
I'll
Good.
offer
Sorry,
you
Jeff.
a twofer for it.
Good.
Okay, a twofer.
Bring it. Yeah.
What if we said we could get rid of the first two parts of the priestly benediction and gain just as much out of the final blessing for peace, which encompasses it all?
Well,
Ah,
I've met very few Jewish people, and Jody could back me up with this, who what's the word? Who are succinct in what they want to say. Jody, I'm thinking about, maybe Doug,
Yeah,
our friend
could
Doug.
answer, but I would need at least 5 minutes to back you up.
Well, you know what? I think that's interesting. I think the additional words, right? Yes, maybe you could get it. It would be all encompassed if you look at it. But here's my gut reaction to it. You ready, Jeff? Here's my gut
I'm
reaction
ready.
to it.
I'm always ready.
That the additional words are there for emphasis. And here's what I mean by that. Like, this is perfect. I was just having this conversation with one of my bar mitzvah kids who's writing a piece that's coming up in August. And his Torah portion, you ready for this? It says, Tzedek, tzedek tirdof, justice, justice you must pursue. What's the point of saying justice twice? Can't you just say it once? Why be redundant, right? But that there's additional meaning in the repetition of the word. So maybe within this, I'm just thinking, going with what my gut here is like, yeah, of course you could shorten it, but I think that the words are there, right, to add additional depth to what this prayer can do, right? May God bless you and protect you.
What is the feeling of those in the congregation who hear this? Do they feel blessed? Do they feel enlarged? Do they feel more positive in their Judaism? How does this affect people in your experience?
In my experience, I'm going to say that it ebbs and flows. I think it's another thing that we move in and out of the feeling. Like the whole, it's for example, what is the purpose of prayer is to, or one may argue, the purpose for prayer, and this comes from our tradition, is to elevate ourselves, to help elevate ourselves to a higher understanding, higher purpose, getting in touch with our true meaning and purpose in our lives.
Thankfulness.
But here's the thing, does it always work? Every time I pray, do I always get to that place? No. Do I maybe half the time get to that place? No. Sometimes do I get to that place? Yes. However, if I don't give myself the opportunity all of those times, I'll never get to that place, or it's very unlikely that I'll get to that place. So I think in hearing this, when I'm in front of the open ark and I'm with these kids, or I'm doing it with these couple under the chuppah, we're saying this blessing, I believe, yes, in that moment, they are feeling that. They are feeling that elevated sense of, they have experienced, they know what that higher self could be. But we don't always stay in that because of all the different things that are part of our lives. But I think with the repetition of it and the reminder of it, it helps us to get back to that state. And I think that that's where we are also right now in our lives. Go, Talia. And I'll finish my point in a second. Jeff, we'll continue this. Go, Talia. Go.
Well, with the blessings, I was thinking about in sign language, how when you say, like I did this for you, like the for is that. So it's my thoughts are with you. So I think like with the blessing, it's like that like a focus. So that individual that's a part of the congregation or the village knows that they have an individual responsibility and that they have, I don't want to say the word power, but they have an effect and their actions have an effect on the community and the future, the whole tapestry thing. Mm-hmm. And then in terms of what you were just talking about with prayer, that reminds me of, is it best is the enemy of good, or perfect is the enemy of good? That, there's just that whole idea that, you do your best and it doesn't, that there's just that whole philosophy thing with that, where I like that, what you said about you keep trying because sometimes you will achieve it. At least your focus and your goal is to achieve it. Whether it always happens, we're human. So,
but if you don't jump in and get yourself busy with it, you're not going to get there at all. You got to give yourself the opportunity and the chance. All right, we'll keep going. Go, Miriam. I got another idea.
Although I appreciate Jeff's wisdom, and he is one smart guy, I don't agree with him at all in this instance
Oh.
because I think you need those three powerful sentences, one after another. There's something magic about the three. Maybe we're not paying attention in the first, but then we begin to in the second. If there are only two, we might not hear them as well as we hear the three. Each one is separate. And the rabbi usually stops after each sentence. He usually doesn't go on as though they were a story, but stops after each sentence. And like Talia and others have said, I choose to include myself because then I feel part of something extremely important, having to do with community, which for me is one of the reasons for tefillah. Just community alone is a very good reason.
Interesting.
It's a pleasure to be in a group with such powerful, thoughtful women. That's for sure.
And Jeff,
And you.
he only posited the question. He didn't say whether he
I
believed
asked
it or
for the
not.
rabbi's opinion as
That
to
was
its
what was
content.
interesting.
I put him on the hook. I had one other earlier point when I sat down for this meeting. You made a comment about, does the individual's failures truly affect the whole? And I would take objection with that because the total and the assessment is not in the human community. Everything, if you believe, is preordained or omniscient or omnipotent, and we can't see the entire picture. Even though there's a failure of one person, the group will move on as it's supposed to. Whether it gains in righteousness or not is individual choices, but the value hasn't been diminished by the failure of one individual.
I don't know. I think that's an interesting point. I think in order to have any of these conversations, almost like that statement needs to be discussed first because if we're not playing on the same field, right? Because if I don't agree with that, then everything else kind of doesn't fit in conversation.
It's interesting because I'll sit in on an Orthodox group and there is nothing that they can admit is not under the purview and direction and plan. So, you know, it depends, you're right, on who you listen to and who you talk to. But
Because I personally don't believe that.
I don't either.
So
Me
that's going to then color every other kind of discussion when it comes to that.
Well, all I know is the rabbi in that group calls me the secular Jew. So what can I say?
Well, at least he calls you a Jew.
At
Yeah.
least you're called a Jew.
I'll tell you, the one
Like,
thing
welcome here. Here you're practically our most religious Jew.
well, that's strange, but ethical, I'll accept. Religious and rights, I would never accept necessarily because I don't think they mean anything. But the rabbi in this group also says that he's moved me from being an ethical atheist to an ethical agnostic. So he feels very comfortable.
He's
at
good.
this point.
He's good.
He's very proud of. Yes, that's good. Proud of his. Okay, Merle, I see you got your hands up. Talia, do you still have your hand up, or was that from before?
Oh, no, sorry. I just, I chatted it
I
instead.
just lowered your hand. Merle,
It
you
was
have your
just
hand
about,
up.
it was just about the idea that in every, like the failures are opportunities to learn and grow. So
Correct. If you, yeah. You
That's-
wrote that too in the chat. That's very good. Go ahead, Merle.
Back to what it means to eat. It means something different to each person receiving the blessing. If you're doing a wedding, it's how you hope that couple lives their life. If you're doing a baby naming or a bris, it's how you hope that child grows up and the family together pays attention to the blessings and gets something from their life and their Jewish life. If you're a congregant and you hear it, I know for me, if it's really crappy week, then I hear it and it makes me feel more complete that I survived and things will get better.
So it's going to how it affects each and every one of you. Okay, interesting. Good. Sue, go ahead.
You know, when somebody passes away, you say in Jewish, typically people will say, may their life be a blessing.
Yeah.
And it's
Right.
very interesting. I was watching the news and I heard Jake Tapper say that. I thought, oh, he must be Jewish, because that was that their memory and their life is a blessing to those around them.
He is
Mm.
Jewish, Yukasa.
What's that, Jody?
He is Jewish.
He is.
He
So
went to
what?
Jewish day school even.
Okay, so let's. So what does that mean for somebody's life to be a blessing for others? What does that mean? Go ahead, Miriam.
That my life will be a blessing for my family, that they will remember me,
How?
that from hopefully values that and examples in my life that how I choose to live my life.
And then how is that a blessing for your family? What is it what's supposed to happen with it?
Emulate your behavior.
There you go. Take it and use it, right? As an inspiration. Go, Miriam.
Like in Debbie Friedman's beautiful song, may your life be a blessing. Isha Beirach, yes, and of course.
You shall be a blessing.
Blessing. And
You shall be a blessing. Lechi lach, right? As you go on your journey.
And
That's what we
each
say to the
time I hear the song, it's meaningful to me. And what it means to me personally is that I don't know if I'll ever be a blessing. I've lived a few years. I'll be 94 years old this year. And so
Wow.
I feel terribly blessed. I wake up every morning and I sincerely, absolutely feel blessed. I walk quickly, I drive, I go to 5 different places, not for 3 months, of course. But this is what it means to me. I will never get there. I will
Miriam,
always try.
Miriam, you've
I'll
been
be
blessed.
on a journey. I will be on my journey. My journey will never end, but I will seek the blessing.
Beautiful. Okay. Here's what we're going to do. Now I'm going to try and wrap it all up. Interest of time. Check this out. Okay. So we said in the beginning is getting busy, right? Soaking ourselves in Torah, getting busy with the ways and the teachings and the guidance of Torah. Then we talk about that we each have a responsibility. And if each of us don't uphold that based on our own theology, right, Jeff? If we don't uphold our role, then everything suffers. Everything suffers. And then the making of this vow, this promise, that's not a promise, right? It's about action, and there's going to be some discomfort, and we won't experience the fullest of joy if we don't fulfill these vows, which are part of the lessons we learned from Torah. I think directly to Passover, when one of the things that we say at Pesach, right? None of us are free until all of us are free. And there's a responsibility in working towards that. Then what does it mean to be a blessing? Right? We said giving a blessing, that's as an inspiration that Miriam was talking about, it's being an inspiration to those who come after us. And at the same time, it's the way we live our lives as that example, and the ethical behaviors that we as individuals have to lift ourselves. And that all resonates with the pain and the suffering and just the sadness and the sickness that we feel in our society and our world today. Los Angeles, America, all of it is connected, right? And in order for us to be that blessing, we have to get busy. Lasok b'divrei Torah. Get busy with this. And we said that Torah is that way, that halakha, that leads to the fulfillment of these vows. So we can taste the sweetness again. And in order to be that blessing, that fulfillment, we all have to do our part, because otherwise it's all going to fall apart. So with that, my friends, thank you for joining. I love this group of phenomenal sharers and thinkers. And may you all continue to be that blessing for all of us as we move forward during these days. So
Thank
I want to
you,
say
Rabbi. Rabbi,
thank you, everybody.
You are that blessing, Rabbi.
Thank you, Miriam. So
Thank
are
you, Rabbi.
Shabbat
You are.
shalom,
Thank you.
everyone.
Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat
So
shalom.
wonderful to see
Shalom.
all of you. Shabbat shalom.
Shalom.
Shabbat shalom. Mwah, mwah,